issue,
between the issue for me is, are the armed forces sleeping? The answer is no. Can they do much more? The answer is yes. Has security improved? Yes. Can we do much more? We obviously have to do much more.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's move
because
on.
Because I am unable to keep quiet, knowing that people have died for this country.
Right.
Or that whether it's Boko Haram, it's ISWAP, it's bandit, whatever you call it.
My people,
even what
with the number of people that have lost their life in various parts of the state in Nigeria, Adams Oshiomhole, senator representing Edo State, came out to defend Bola Tinubu, the president of Nigeria, in tackling
to measure
insecurity.
Progress is to look at where you were and compare to where you are. It is not my opinion now. I have been present in many places where, for example, people from part of the Northeast admitted to the fact that under Tinubu, the coordination of security is more effective, and places that they couldn't go before, they could go there now. That does not mean that occasionally they will not go for sub-target and attack.
You mean the same Northeast where 20,000 people have been made homeless today, and the governor is complaining?
It's happened just today.
We're hearing Mate.
But if you remember, if you are going to talk like this, you have to trace the history. There was once upon a time where this country, part of Maiduguri, people couldn't go there. A Nigeria president couldn't visit Maiduguri.
Yeah, but the fear is that it's returning to that again.
We this year went to Maiduguri to say no. Maiduguri is part of Nigeria. People couldn't even go to mosque. So that's why I say it is not about whether you have totally solved a problem or the problem is it's gotten worse and worse. What I can say with confidence is that there is improvement. How much improvement there is, how much more we need to do, there's quite much more to do.
Right.
Just yesterday, I watched through Arise Television, it was the day before yesterday, people from Northwest, the governor of Kaduna, gave a template of what they have accomplished security-wise, such that a place like Birnigwari, which was no longer touchable, I mean, people couldn't go there, except with heavy armored vehicles, etc. People can now go there without escort. He also referred to the fact that Southern Kaduna, this one I watched from the media, the Southern Kaduna is a lot safer now than it used to be. That is not to suggest that either the president or any Nigerian for that matter, is happy about the current level. It can be better and it has to be better. But the point to make is that let nobody suggest that it is now worse. It is not.
Well, let me, on the basis of that, let me ask you, because we're hearing that Nigeria has just named a new commander, Major General Abdul Salam Abubakar, to take charge and lead the fight against groups like Boko Haram and ISWAP in the Northeast. He is the 15th commander to be named since the operation began some 15 years ago. So a 15th commander appointed in a conflict that's been raging for 15 years, that suggests that a commander is changed every year on average. Do you think that's helpful for leadership and proper coordination on the ground? Doesn't that suggest that there is something, I mean, fatally wrong? You have to ask why he's being appointed now.
How you choose to interpret them. The fact that even if the president chooses to change the commander every other day, it shows that his eyes on the job. He will not go to take nonsense for an answer.
Yeah, but
and if I give you an assignment and you are doing well and I'm not satisfied, I keep changing.
Yeah.
What do you want him to do? Is it a permanent, Nigeria permanent representation?
Yeah, but we're talking about an insurgency.
I don't think, no. You can't use the number of commanders or the frequency or the rate at which commanders are changed as a basis to measure progress or lack of progress.
Well, let me tell you why I said that.
Yeah.
Military analysts have argued that you need to have a commander who can strategize, who can plan, and who can implement. And who can implement that plan for at least 2 years consistently. These are military analysts.
Okay, maybe I should ask you, how many commanders has President Tinubu appointed?
Well, let me just make the point, before you start to see success. But when you're changing them every year, then it becomes difficult to plan and implement, doesn't it?
No. I will ask you the question.
If you're changing senators every year, then you're not going to have consistency of lawmaking.
Democracy requires that we change them every 4 years, or even earlier, if the electorate so decide. It's not up to you and I to determine.
No, I understand. But there's a reason why.
No, don't distract me for your question.
Okay, sorry. Please, go ahead.
Answer. How many commanders has President Tinubu changed from Maiduguri? Well, you say from where the war began. Can you remember where the war began? It was during Jonathan, but the problem started during Obasanjo.
Well, the actual war began around 2009. That's when the actual war began.
Yeah, but the crisis of Boko Haram had been there from the time of President Obasanjo.
Well, there was...
So if you are going to measure the number of commanders, I don't really think this one Nigerians, if they want to change commanders every year, once upon a time, President Buhari was being accused of allowing the service chief to overstay. Then I was chairman of APC. And President Buhari keeps saying to us that you don't change a commander in the middle of war. That's his own opinion as a commander. Another commander in chief could decide otherwise. That's why I ask you, the number that have been changed, how many occur under President?
Well, it is...
Because it will not be fair for you to imply, because you are not evaluating Nigeria since 1960. You are evaluating Nigeria since President Tinubu took over 2 years ago.
We're evaluating...
So if you have issues about numbers, you must limit the issues to the number of commanders that have been changed over the past 2 years compared to what it used to be before Tinubu came in. But if you ask me, honestly speaking, I do not think Nigerians bother. Now, those who are advising you about it's better to keep them for a certain number of period, if I ask, maybe they are retired ones. It's typical Nigeria football match.
Maybe there.
The coach is the only one who doesn't know that he should have withdrawn one player. He should have put three.
Well, let me tell you why I'm asking you. Well, let me say.
But the point to be made is this. Right. The point to be made is this. Just a few days back, the president reassured Nigerians that he is going to reinforce funding. He will do everything he can to empower the armed forces to do what they have to do to terminate all this insurgency.
Right. Well,
in whatever way they rear their head. So that suggests to me that no one is much more concerned about finding a lasting, sustainable solution to the problem of insecurity than the president himself.
Well, it's not about concern; it's about actually doing something about it. And let me say this.
But that's what I said.
If you look at,
I didn't say he's talking about it. Right. You are the one telling me now that he's changing commanders. Is that not doing something?
If you look at,
he's changing the commander the way you change your master of ceremony.
If you look at open source data, they indicate that attacks are rising, and they suggest.
Who are these people?
And they suggest, that's what I mean by open source data. That means across the board. They suggest that in the first 3 months of this year alone, there have been some 300 Boko Haram attacks in Borno State alone, in which more than 500 people have been killed and almost the same number have been abducted. That suggests that insecurity in the Northeast is getting worse, not better, doesn't it? Speak to the governor who's there. He's coming out, even just earlier in the day, he was coming out to say that more than 20,000 people have been displaced in one part of the Northeast as a result of his state, as a result of these attacks.
With all due respect to you, I think you are recycling this same question in different forms.
Well,
there is no suggestion before you. Excuse me, with due respect, there is no suggestion to the effect that everywhere is peaceful now. I haven't said so, and I've not had anyone who has said so.
Yeah, but it's the frequency of the attacks.
And if you talk about frequency, you may have to find out from those whose business it is to collate.
Well, that's exactly what we've been doing.
That is not my bit.
Right.
My bit is to listen to people, as a senator, for example, to listen to people. I heard a senator narrating on the floor of the Senate that people from his own constituency in part of the Northeast who have not been able to go to farm are now able to go to farm. That letter was read on the floor of the Senate. I will listen to him, because he's a senator, he's elected by his people.
But you won't listen to the governor who's in charge of the state.
That's up to you. If you choose to, And then, with all due respect, you are overflogging it.
Well,
because you are suggesting, you just want to make a point, which is unnecessary. There is no issue about whether or not we have security challenges. It has been there since President Obasanjo. It got worse during President Jonathan to a point that national elections were postponed by 2 months. I was a governor that time. It got to a point where Boko Haram hosts foreign flags on Nigeria soil, that 28 local government was no longer under Nigeria control. This problem have been there. In Abuja here, Boko Haram bombed the police headquarters. Police headquarters. In Abuja here in Angulu, you won't forget that the United Nations building,
very well.
United Nations building, United Nations building was attacked in the heart of Abuja.
Well. Yeah.
Are you aware of that?
Absolutely.
So is it not reasonable to say that whereas there is this serious problem of insecurity, but the audacity with which they used to move, it appears the Nigerian armed forces are curtailing them effectively.
Yeah.
That is not to say the problem is over. What we should be doing, what citizens do in other countries, is to salute the effort of the armed forces. You don't dismiss them as if it's a Christmas party.
I think the issue here...
I'm not going to say more on this.
Yeah.
Because I am not here. You call me a senator. You have not called me a retired military officer.
I understand that.
Fine. So
and I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
We have spoken enough for security.
Yeah.
But all I want to tell you is that
not trying to put
I
you
have been in this Abuja,
yeah,
where even the policemen felt unsafe at the police headquarters. That speaks volume, because the headquarters was bombed. United Nations, with all the security around it, it was bombed by Boko Haram. So we must go through the full gamut to try to understand where we're coming from,
I think
when it got to a peak, where we are now. But don't push me to suggest, or do not try to imply that anyone is suggesting that there's conflict between what the governor is saying and what the senator has.
Well,
what the senator said. There is nothing contradicting anything. They both admit that there are problems, but nobody is sleeping on it.
Sure. If I can
the governor is working very hard. He's doing everything to deal with the aftermath of all those attacks, which is very commendable. He's taking risks, going to everywhere. And sometimes you wonder whether he has special armor. He's doing everything. I don't think he's sleeping. I look at his eye bag. I said, this man is not sleeping.
Right. Well, we're going to move on from security. But I think the point that needs to be made is nobody's saying that
all of us. The point that needs to be made.
Let me just make the point.
Is that we shouldn't celebrate criminality.
No. Hold on. Nobody is celebrating.
Excuse me. We must acknowledge. I watch CNN. I watch international cable. When a nation is under attack by criminals, all hands should be on deck, including the media.
Yeah, that's exactly the point. You're making that our point.
But not to seem to be celebrating
no.
or implies.
Nobody is celebrating.
Do you know that families have lost soldiers?
Nobody
Senior military officers, colonel, majors, captains.
Nobody.
Not to talk of other that have been waiting.
Senator,
when they see us talk like
this is a dialogue, not a monologue.
No, I understand. But I
well, you don't understand.
If you did, you would. I want us to encourage our armed forces, even as we have huge challenges, and there's a huge gap between where we are and where we want to be.
Senator, you're making a political statement. That's not what we're doing here. What we're doing is assessing whether things have... Nobody said that things have got as bad as they were a few years ago. But the issue here is, do they appear to be getting worse from where they were perhaps a couple of years ago? And that's the issue. We've seen attacks by Boko Haram and ISWAP on military installations, military camps in several locations in Borno and Yobe states. And in each of these attacks, they're reported to have overrun the camp, killed some soldiers and captured others. And then they looted the camps, stealing weapons and food. On top of that, we're also seeing things like roadside bombs being planted randomly on major roads, which have blown up commercial vehicles. And recently, 26 people were killed in one such incident. It's not about comparing what it was before or what it is now. It is about what is happening on the ground today. What do you think are the factors responsible for this resurgence? That's how we're going to have to deal with that. But I'm quite happy to move on from there.
I think we are fixated on recycling the same thing, because there is no suggestion between me and you. I have no suggestion to you that it is over. Because there was a time you forgot that even to take a train from here to
and
Kaduna
that is very true. I agree.
You know, I saw Kaduna governor say that you cannot come to Kaduna without such escort.
Indeed.
So if all you want to amplify is the one that is reoccurring, and you are not going to admit to where progress has been made. I don't belong to that school.
No.
That's why I said life is not about whether you have everything going for you 100% or you have 0.
I think the issue...
the issue for me is, are the armed forces sleeping? The answer is no. Can they do much more? The answer is yes. Has security improved? Yes. Can we do much more? We obviously have to do much more.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, well, let's move on.
Because I am unable to keep quiet knowing that people have died for this country.
Right.
Whether it's Boko Haram, is SWAP, is bandit, whatever you call it.